thing I always ask myself about Dowding is, have the Germans even never heard of the guy?
No, probably not. Probably not. Oh, something's up. There's something in the air. I need to hot-foot it to Uxbridge.
Everything's being forced higher and higher as the combat gets higher and higher up.
Huge dogfights over London. These are seen by people down below. Realises he's run out of ammo, so what does he do?
He rams it.
He rams it.
Welcome to Walking the Ground with me, Al Murray, and James Holland. And we are at Bentley Priory for this next film in our series about the Battle of Britain.
Yep, and today we're looking at Battle of Britain Day, Sunday the 15th of September 1940.
Regarded as the height of the battle.
The crux.
The crux, the key moment where the RAF wins. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
No, it's a resounding victory for the RAF Fighter Command that day.
Win. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
You're not watching the film because they didn't win. Honestly. I mean, it would be a very different film, I'd find. Yeah?
Yes, we beat the Englanders.
Exactly.
But here we are. I mean, we've just walked up the steps of the portico at the front of Bentley Priory, headquarters of RAF Fighter Command, the base for Air Chief Marshal Sir Hugh Dowding, the architect of the Battle of Britain. It starts a hazy morning, and early that morning, Dowding would have come out here and looked out over southern England, southern London. He would have seen a hazy morning because, of course, the Blitz has started the previous Saturday, the 7th of September. Lots of smoke still lingering from the fires. And he'd looked out and wondered what the day would have...
The thing I always ask myself about Dowding is, have the Germans even never heard of the guy?
No, probably not. Probably not.
I mean, their intelligence is so bad about the RAF, even the existence of Fighter Command.
Who is this Dowding?
So they have no idea.
Who is this stuffy?
So there's this stuffy mastermind here in Bentley Priory, planning and masterminding this battle that they've no idea he even exists or that his workings, his efforts, years of work are coming to fruition on September the 15th.
And Churchill, the Prime Minister, he's at Chequers that day. And he gets up and he's having his sort of eggs and bee in the morning and he thinks, oh, something's up. There's something in the air. I need to hot-foot it to Uxbridge.
Yes.
All sounds a little bit after the event.
It does sound a tiny bit after the event.
But anyway, just go with it.
No, we'll roll
with it. So he goes to Uxbridge and famously stands behind Park with his unlit cigar clamped between his mouth, watching the events unfold. So there is this sense, I think, on that morning, quite early on, that this is, when it's a good weather day, and the sun very quickly burns through the mist. When it's a good weather day, everyone knows that something's going to be up.
Well, and also,
so I don't think it's that fanciful.
And also, this kind of intensity has been going on for about a month. It feels that there's got to be a moment where there's a climactic moment in the Luftwaffe's efforts, and to the 15th is seen as that day, give or take.
Yeah. So there's early morning little rays of sort of a Junkers 88 sort of spotted near Exeter and a few other little sort of forays, but the main events are the two big raids, and it's that we're going to be looking into in this episode.
Brilliant. We are.
Makes you feel contemplative, doesn't it?
Standing with history here, aren't we?
You want to stand here and the soaring music and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and the terrible blocks of flats that are a footprint.
Yes, you'd be looking at silvery barrage balloons, wouldn't you?
Yes, rather than awful flats that are the legacy of the Blitz.
Yep.
So here we are at Northolt, and we're in the ops room.
Newly restored.
Newly restored, and to the absolute finest detail.
By Philip Dorr and his team. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
True labour of love in here.
Even the lights work.
Yeah, really amazing. But on September the 15th, 1940, the height, Battle of Britain Day, as we now know it, it's good weather. And that means that something's going to happen.
There's something in the air. And so it proves. And the radar, the RDF, starts to pick up signs of movement across the channel in the sort of, mid-morning, that something's up. And that starts to build, and it seems to be a fairly substantial plot. And squadrons from the various fighter bases in 11 Group are starting to be scrambled from around sort of called it at 11 o'clock, 11:15. They're not all scrambled at the same time because they're all at different places. And The interesting thing now is because of this shift that has happened with the 7th of September, Black Saturday, when the Luftwaffe has moved away from attacking individual airfields to attacking London, it means that Keith Park, the commander of 11 Group, pretty much can tell what's going to happen.
Yeah, because up to that point, actually, that's been there are aircraft in the Channel. Where are they going to go? What are they going to attack?
Yeah, and they're all coming at different times and different numbers.
I mean, in lots of ways. You know what it really reminds me of, getting these different squadrons into the air and bringing them to effect, is the sort of calculations that Duke of Wellington's making on the field of Waterloo, where he knows how fast his light infantry can go over certain territory. He knows what speed his heavy cavalry will go, what his light infantry can do, and how do you coordinate them and make them all arrive to deliver a punch that's effective against the enemy. And it's a similar sort of plate spinning exercise for Park, isn't it? Because Big Wing, if it's demonstrating nothing else, is you haven't got time or space or the juice to form squadrons up into large numbers to hammer these big enemy formations. What we have here is a representation of the noon raid on the plot here, and there's 4 German forces plotted on here on the board. This is what they represent. There's number 10, in excess of 40 aircraft identified at 20,000 feet. Number 6 there, which is 30 plus aircraft at 16,000 feet. Number 4 at 30 plus aircraft at 25,000 feet. And then 4J, which is more than 20 at 25,000 feet. So that's a chunk of planes converging on London.
Yeah, it is. In fact, we now know that there were about 100 in total. So there were 25 Dornier 17s, and there were about 75 in total, Messerschmitt 109, single engine, ME 110.
Those numbers aren't far off, though,
no, they're not far off at all. No,
and that's Chain Home, and then that's the Royal Observer Corps, because they're over land now, so that's eyes on, people counting, the different stations counting. And it's a cumulative information that's coming to Park.
And because he knows that almost certainly they're all converging on London, his job is to try and disrupt that bomber formation before it gets to its target. So he wants them to turn away, drop their bombs, break out of formation, become as ineffective as they possibly can be for a concentrated assault on the capital. So how do you do that? Because the problem you've got is you've got your squadrons are all based all over the place. There's not a concentration of fighter bases. They're split. You know, you can see them here: Manston, Hawkinge, Gatwick, Redhill, Biggin Hill. There's obviously a lot more around London, but they are Tangmere, West Hampton. They're all over the place. So how do you get them to be most effective? And what he decides is actually from now on, what we're going to do is we're going to peck away at this formation in pairs. Pairs of squadrons. So in this case, from Northolt, you've got 303 Kosciuszko Squadron, the Poles, and you've got 229 Squadron. So they're sent up together. And usually it's the Spitfire and the Hurricane Squadron.
And represented on here, as we can see, is that 229 and 303 Squadron, who are flying together, enemy sighted. So what it says on the board, that's the state of play. There is a 1st Canadian Squadron. They've also sighted the enemy, but they're being vectored towards Formation 4, which is sort of over Biggin Hill in that area, whereas 303, it's down in Kent near Hawkinge.
Now, a lot of these planes, these bomber formations, the Dorniers are interrupted before they get to London. Some of them peel off, drop in fields, drop somewhere else. But obviously, inevitably, a number do get through to where they're trying to hit in London. Huge dogfights over London. These are seen by people down below, contrails and all the rest of it. So there's all sorts of individual activities going on and little chases and the sound of machine guns and all the rest of it. All seems pretty dramatic. But this is not the main event of the day. This is a big raid, but it's not the biggest raid. And the interesting thing about it is when you're in a squadron, even if you're in a pair of squadrons, that's 24 planes airborne. If you're one of a squadron, that's one of 12. You're going into an enemy formation of 100. So it seems like you're massively outnumbered. Of course. But in actual fact, 285 Spitfires and Hurricanes are scrambled to intercept this. So that means that actually, collectively, the Luftwaffe are attacking at almost 3-to-1 disadvantage, or Jim, 1-to-3 disadvantage.
Please don't shatter the Battle of Britain underdog stuff. I mean, what this also means is if you're a 24 aircraft coming up against these 40 or so down in Hawkinge in 303 and 229 Squadron, actually, everyone's got something to shoot at. Whereas if a larger amount of people are arriving, there might be a confusion. You might shoot each other down. So there's plenty of targets. It's a target-rich environment, isn't it? So swings and roundabouts of this way of doing things is actually, tactically, it suits the RAF as interceptors.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, what we're going to do next is we're going to look at some individual experiences, and we're going to return back to Biggin Hill and 92 Squadron, see what they got up to on Battle Britain Day.
Brilliant.
Well, Al, I mean, you can't come to Biggin Hill and not visit this really incredibly moving chapel.
Yeah. I mean, the sense you get from all the names on the wall, scores of names on there, hundreds of names on there.
Of people, airmen who died operating from here.
Yeah, and this is one station.
Yeah.
So it all adds up, it all accretes. You get a sense of the sacrifice here.
Sound of a Spitfire flying overhead?
Well, yes.
Or is it a Hurricane? I don't know. Here we are at Biggin Hill. What do you expect?
It's as if we've had it laid on.
Yeah.
But we haven't.
We haven't. But we are. What we're talking about at the moment is Battle of Britain Day, as it became known, Sunday, the 15th of September. And in an earlier film, we were looking at 92 Squadron, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of think about their experience. They only come to Biggin Hill on the 7th of September.
Yeah.
So they've been here a week, just over a week.
Where have they come from?
Pembury in South Wales.
Right.
So they come back here. One of the guys who's only just come back is Tony Bartley, because when they moved to Biggin Hill, he's not been on leave, so he turns up, and the whole place is an absolute shambles. They've been bombed out of the mess hall, the whole airfield is pockmarked and all the rest of it. But 92 Squadron, they live pretty hard. They've been out at the White Hart at Brasted the night before. Suddenly, they're having to get up very early the following morning, at dawn. They're down at the dispersal, waiting to be scrambled. Everyone's feeling a little bit edgy, and it's going to be a bright day and a kind of perfect day for enemy bombers to come over and fighters and all the rest of it. So Tony is waiting. Everyone's pacing around, that usual thing of sort of sitting around feeling on edge because you're going to be scrambled at any moment. But the actual scramble doesn't come until 11:05, so they've been sat there for kind of 6 hours or something, waiting.
That's not brilliant, is it?
Well, there's no way around it, though.
I mean, you think...
the Luftwaffe aren't being keen on being that helpful.
No, but you think you'd wake up adrenalised anyway, and then you're sitting burning, I guess. Burning.
You're still breathing the fumes of the previous night, in the case of 92 Squadron.
Maybe you have a hangover,
Yeah. Anyway, so at 11:05, they're scrambled. And the orders are Angels 25, so 25,000 feet, patrol over Canterbury, and form up with 72 Squadron. Yeah. So Park's evolving tactics by this stage are to operate in 2 squadron formations. So the idea is Park now knows that they're mainly aiming for London when these big bomber formations come over. And the radar picture has suggested that there's something big brewing, and that they're going to head along the leg of Kent and then attack London from the southeast. So he sends up these pairs of squadrons to just sort of basically peck away at this formation all the time and try and sort of attrit them before they actually get to London. And Tony Bartley, one of the flying officers in 92 Squadron, along with 11 others, there's 12 airborne, led by Brian Kinkham, climb up. And as they do, he looks out. They go into a left-hand circuit out of Biggin Hill, because he's on the hill up here, and he can see London. And he can see the Thames sort of snaking silvery, through the city. And there's still quite a lot of smoke and mist over London itself because of all the previous week's bombing, of course. This is the start of the Blitz, just the previous Saturday. Yeah. Then as they climb, the sun starts to really burst through, and he looks again and sees all the barrage balloons, which are these sort of little silvery blobs which seem to be just sort of floating, in the air, which of course they are, but on a wire, but you can't see that from where he is. And then they get called up as they get closer. And actually I've got the transcript of the radio telegraphy, the radio message, traffic. So it goes, "Hello, Gannick leader," and that is the ground controller from the Biggin sector. Carfax calling, 200 plus coming in over Red Queen, Vector 120, Angels 22. So then Brian Kinkham, who's leading the squadron that day, replies, "Hello, Carfax, Gannick leader." And the reason he's acting squadron leader is because Philip Sanders, who is the squadron leader, has set fire to himself while trying to light a cigarette.
Right, okay.
So he's out of action. Whilst obviously a little bit.
Of all the ways to miss...
exactly. So then he goes, "Hello, Gannick leader, Carfax calling, watch out for snappers above, many snappers above. Hear me, loud and clear, Carfax, out."
So there you go. So they've been sent to 25,000 feet themselves to patrol at 25,000 1,000 feet.
So they're told to climb to that height.
Exactly, and the Germans are at 22.
The point is they're always adjusting, that's the thing.
Yeah. But if they're looking out for snappers above, the German fighter escort, and this is part of what's happened as the battles progress, have been forced higher.
Yeah.
Everything's being forced higher and higher as the combat gets higher and higher up.
Exactly that. So now you've got the bombers coming in at Angels 22,000 feet.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because they've got 3,000 feet, but they've also got Messerschmitt 109s hovering above them at 28,000 feet or whatever it is. This is the challenge for the British fighter pilots, the RAF's fighter pilots, that their job is to destroy as many bombers as possible, but they've also got to shoot down and make sure they don't get shot down by enemy fighters.
Yeah.
Enemy fighters, the Luftwaffe's fighters, have just got to shoot down Spitfires and Hurricanes. So the role for the German fighter pilots is much easier on paper than it is for the fighter commands.
Yes, although flying across the channel and being low on fuel and all those things.
But when they're in the combat zone, they've only got one job as opposed to two, which the RAF fighter command have got.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they tear into them. Suddenly, they're hurtling down towards them. Tony is right behind Brian Kinkham. Brian Kinkham opens up on a Dornier 17, sees bits being hit. Tony clobbers it as well, sees burst into flames, goes in a tight spin. He then attacks another, pumps at it, sees bits of the Dornier coming off. Then he's run out of ammunition because, as we discussed in an earlier film, 14.7 seconds. It doesn't take very long. They're firing at a rate of 1,200 rounds a minute.
Yeah.
And they've only got 300 drums.
So they really have to get very close and strike very accurately.
So then you've got to get, you've run out of ammo. You're useless. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is head for home. So suddenly you've got to dive out of the way, get out of the fray as quickly as possible, and scurry off and head for home. But I mean, Tony gave this fantastic description of seeing this formation of about 200 bombers. Actually, it was only about 100 bombers.
I think this is the thing. Is if you look at the numbers and you step away from it, you can say, well, there's much bigger bomber forces assembled later in the war by the Allies, for instance, and this really is kind of small potatoes by the scale of the war 4 years later. But if you're in one of 24 Spitfires and you're facing 100 tooled up Germans and who knows how many Messerschmitts above, you're well within your rights to say, dear God, I've never seen
I'm feeling completely outnumbered.
I'm feeling totally outnumbered. The sky is full of aircraft.
But the interesting thing, this is only the first major raid of the day. And in actual fact, it's not 200, it's 100 all told. It's only 25 Dorniers and 75 escorting planes. So it's amazing how this stuff gets distorted, but that is how many were sent over on this first raid. And it peaks around 12:30, by which time Tony Bartley is already landing back down again, and most of the rest of 92 Squadron are landing back down again at Biggin Hill. But there is a much bigger raid still to come that afternoon.
Well, so we're back in the ops room at Northolt.
And already Londoners have had incredible scenes. Not least Ray Holmes of 504 Squadron in his Hurricane, attacking two Dorniers. Then a third. Realises he's run out of ammo, so what does he do?
He rams it.
There's that famous photograph of the Dornier without its tail, just plunging straight into Victoria Station. Well, he thought it was heading for Buckingham Palace.
I know, but I mean, infrastructure-wise, Buckingham Palace is more expendable than Victoria Station, right?
Maybe you made the wrong call.
Maybe you made the wrong call.
Don't say that. You can't bust myths as well.
No, well, I'm not here to bust any myths. We're just here to.
Anyway, it was a spectacularly courageous thing. He bailed out, managed to survive, so he was all right. But incredible. But people witnessed this. This is the point. So this is all laid out for people to see and watch. But that first raid wasn't the main one. It was the second raid that was the biggest, and this was around 300 aircraft. So 100 bombers, 200 fighter escorts.
Right.
And again, everyone's scrambled. By this time, Churchill is standing next to Keith Park at the operations room at the bunker at Uxbridge. And he's following. Churchill has been told he can't have his cigar lit, so he goes down the big steps down into the bunker with it just clamped between his mouth because the air conditioning unit can't cope with smoke. And he's standing next to Park and he's watching these plots evolving. He's seeing these plots coming across the coast up towards London. and he sees all the lights of the
yeah, that all the squadrons are out.
All the squadrons are out. So he goes, where are all the reserves? And he says,
where are all the reserves?
Exactly, that's how he says it. And Park replies to him, there are none.
There are none, mate.
Yeah, there's none.
Yeah, but that could mean anything, couldn't it?
Yeah,
because after all, the whole fighter command system is that by no means the whole of fighter command deployed.
Not even 50%.
No. And maybe Churchill understands that that's exactly what's going on.
But, he's telling a story.
Yeah, it's a moment of great drama. I also think it's not entirely stupid of Winston Churchill to be in Uxbridge if London is being bombed.
Yeah.
So it's maybe the right place to be.
Well, maybe. Particularly in a bunker down below ground.
So there we go. So you know, he gets his dit out of it. But what's apparent though, when you look at this, is that, you know, over here on the section of this map, which is called RDF, because it's sectioned up into sort of place name sections. So in the Cambridge sector, the Colchester sector, Watford. France is RDF. Yep. France is down as the readings that are coming in from chain home.
Yep. And this is about 300, so as I say, 100 bombers, 200 fighter escorts, scrambled at various times, with no more reserves in 11 group, but elsewhere, is about 335 Spitfires and Hurricanes. So again, the Spitfires and Hurricanes outnumber the attacking force. Again, not if you're one of 12 in a single squadron.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that way, but in actual fact, you are outnumbering in totality. And the point is that Park hasn't got time to mass them into a single formation.
There are enough stories, aren't there, about pilots being sent up, scrambled, and never seeing anything coming back to base, right? So if there's a large amount of you, and you all do that, you've shot your bolt, you're less effective. Yeah. Whereas if squadrons are each being directed the way they need to be. At
different stages of the passage of the flotter's journey.
Exactly. And it's about attriting the column, isn't it? It's about, it's like raiders in the hilltops sniping at the column, isn't it? Yeah. And wearing it down and, you know, knocking out the guys at the front.
And trying to disrupt it and unnerve the bombers. Yeah. Distract the fighters. Yeah. And so what you want to do is you want to get you're using your early fighters, right, okay, you squadrons can go down there towards, you know, scramble from Hawkinge, you can attack them immediately, try and attract and pull off as many fighters as you can, then that's exposing the bombers who can then be hammered from the Hurricanes and Spitfires from North Weald.
And they're going
from Hornchurch.
I think one of the things that's striking about all this is that the RAF effort is incredibly well coordinated. The Germans, because they're not keen on radio communication, in fact, they strangely, given the success it's given them in their armies, you know, the German army is plugged into radio, you know, why their armoured formations have revolutionised warfare in the first year of the war. It's quite peculiar Luftwaffe's not interested. Maybe they think they're high-tech enough. Yeah. But the point is coordinating these. You know, the bombers can not marry up with the fighters. They can go to the wrong place. They can miss one another. And so German coordination is enough of an issue anyway, and it's up against a coordinated effort in return. And that typifies what's happening on September the 15th.
But the net result is that on, you know, that second raid, big though it is, dramatic though it seems from the ground, is once again it's seen off. Yeah. You know, they do drop bombs on London, yes. Yeah. Do they destroy the RAF? No. Do they cripple terminally London? Absolutely not. No. You know, the claims that are made from both sides are wildly over the top. Yeah. It's about a third of what they're being claimed. Yeah. But it is still a significant victory that day.
And most importantly, the British know what the German claims are because the Germans are trumpeting them. The British can check that. They know how many planes they've lost. They have a pretty good idea of what the actual damage done by the raid is. The Germans have no way of knowing actually what's going on the other side of the channel. They don't know how effective they're being, and they're telling tall tales as well. So
one of the key factors on this battle, this second raid, as they're all turning back to France, the 109s and the remaining bombers and scattered bombers, they're all trying to sort of get themselves back and limp back home. Suddenly 50 planes from the big wing turn up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a good day
to be a Luftwaffe.
Or to be Hermann Goering.
No. Well, I think as we're contemplating the results and the effects of Battle of Britain Day, Sunday the 15th of September This is a good place to be, isn't it?
Yes,
this is
it
the
is.
Battle of Britain Memorial at Capel-le-Ferne on the south coast with this kind of very poignant statue, I think.
Yeah.
And well worth a visit, by the way.
But what happened? What is it about Battle of Britain Day that marks it out so? Why is it? Why are we talking about the 15th of September and not the 9th or the 12th of August? What is it about?
Well, it's because on that day, it's right over London. There's these two big daylight raids over London. Everyone in the city sees it. There's contrails. It's a beautiful sunny day, so it's like a perfect late summer's day with all this incredible action going on. And it feels like there's huge numbers of German planes being shot down. In actual fact, it's only 61, which is still a lot.
That is a big chunk.
And 31 British planes.
Yeah.
Of which, I think more than a third escaped with their lives.
Right.
So, planes is not a problem. It's pilots.
Yeah.
But, what's really interesting about that, you think about those two raids, 100 in the morning, and the midday one, 300 in the afternoon. That's only 400. If they've got sort of 2,500 aircraft, why only 300?
Well.
And of course, they haven't. They're being attrited in a really, really bad way. So it might only be 61 planes shot down, but that's a hell of a lot in one day.
And if it was 61 the following day, it really starts to eat into the Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
You can. What is it? It's if you lose a third of your combat strength in the modern parlance, you lose a third of your combat strength, then you lose coherence, don't you? Combat coherence is the way it's looked at nowadays. Well, that's 15%, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
and dare I say it also, I think the arrival of 50 big-wing Spitfires and Hurricanes just as the Germans are pulling out at the end of the second raid, I do think that has a bit of a blow for them. They think, what? We're supposed to be just inches away from destroying the RAF, and yet they're still coming.
We've been told they're running out of aircraft. We've been told they're on their knees. Yeah.
And that clearly isn't evident. And 2 days later, Hitler postpones Operation Sea Lion on the 17th, and on the 12th of October, he calls it all off, pretty much permanently.
And they've switched
indefinitely.
And they've switched to night operations.
Yes, which is one of the reasons why they can't put all their eggs in one basket in day operations.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why they're only sending over formations of 300 or 100.
Yeah.
Because they need to have everyone ready for night operations, which is now the main effort.
But what's interesting about that, though, is we've talked throughout these films about how the Luftwaffe isn't really suited to the campaign it tries to fight in the Battle of Britain during the day. But your Heinkel 111s and your Dornier 17s at night deliver a really effective. And the Blitz that follows, that then runs into the May of the following year. And then, of course, the Blitz is an incredibly effective campaign for causing political effect on Britain. And Britain at that point...
And enormous amounts of damage.
Well, yes. Enormous amounts of damage, casualties. It's an unprecedented event in the way that the Battle of Britain itself is an unprecedented event. An air superiority battle over London. It's never happened before. No. Over a major city. It's never happened before. Followed by a strategic bombing campaign. Never happened before.
But it doesn't get Britain any closer to losing the war.
No.
And it doesn't bring them to their knees.
No.
And actually, war production continues to increase over the winter of 1940 into 1941. Yeah. But I think what you get, ultimately, the battles that are raging over the summer of 1940, they are flown by very young men.
Yeah.
Whether they be German young men or whether they be British Commonwealth and other people from around the world like the Poles and the Czechs and so on, and even American volunteers.
Yeah.
It is those young men that are doing the hard yards. And I think the Battle of Britain Day is... that's seen as the kind of sort of the crux of those summer battles over southern England. Because it's seen witnessed by so many people.
Well, and the thing is, the last successful invasion of England is in 1066, and what the Normans have to do is get through the shield wall. They have to break the shield wall of the Anglo-Saxon shield wall, and in the end, the story is William Conqueror does that by coaxing the Anglo-Saxons down the hill and tricking them. The RAF are not coaxed. The Luftwaffe failed to coax them out into the channel. They failed to get them up to fight them and destroy them. It doesn't work. They don't get through the shield wall.
No.
And that balance of shot down aircraft, between the Germans and the British, shows you that the shield wall is holding.
Yeah, and it continues to hold. I mean, 15th of September is not the end of the daylight operations.
No.
It continues. In actual fact, the only day in that the only period in that summer where there are 4 clear consecutive days of good weather is in the 20s of September. I think it's like the 23rd to the 27th, something like that. And there is a huge day on the 27th of September, again in which the big wind's involved and so on. Yeah. And it continues on into October and on into November. Officially, the Battle of Britain ends on the 31st of October, but it is petering out, very obviously by the end of September. And I think Battle of Britain Day, it's right that we mark that day because that is the crux. But we've got one more film because we've got to consider what does happen at the end of the Battle of Britain. Yeah. We've got to consider the long-term stakes, the actual result. Yeah. Some Germans like to call it a draw.
Yes.
I like to call it an absolute whopping defeat for the
Luftwaffe. Well, they have to win. They have to win. Well, and very often in cricket, if you play for a draw, you still win the series, right? So even if it's a draw for the Royal Air Force, they win the series, right?
Anyway, we've got one more film to do in our Battle of Britain series, and that is going to be called Smashing the Luftwaffe. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
It's well worth a visit here, and obviously you can watch that film on WW2Headquarters.com. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.
Cheerio.